Commander Jake Sullivan stood in the Great Council chamber, watching the alien delegates argue among themselves. The massive room was filled with creatures from across the galaxy. Some looked like giant lizards, others were made of pure energy, and a few resembled walking trees. After 30 years as Earth's representative, Jake had seen it all. The problem today was serious. Something called the Void Plague was destroying entire star systems. It would appear without warning, turn planets into empty space and move on to the next target. 3 systems had already been lost, along with billions of lives. Dr. Lisa Monroe sat beside Jake, her datapad filled with research. She had spent months studying the plague with her team of human scientists. Lisa was the smartest person Jake knew, and if anyone could solve this problem, it was her. The solution is actually quite simple, Lisa whispered to Jake. We need to create quantum field barriers around each system, then coordinate our fleets to push the plague into empty space where it can't hurt anyone. Jake nodded. The human plan made sense. It would take work, but it could save the galaxy. He stood up when High Counselor Vexthul called for solutions. The humans wished to speak, announced Vexthul, his energy form shimmering with barely hidden annoyance. Jake had always felt that the council leader didn't like humans very much. Jake walked to the center of the chamber. Honorable counselors, humanity offers a solution to the Void Plague crisis. Dr. Monroe has developed a plan that can stop the plague and save our remaining systems. Ambassador Zethkar, a tall reptilian creature, made a hissing sound that Jake knew was laughter. The humans think they can solve what our greatest minds cannot? How amusing. Lisa stood and activated her holographic display. The chamber filled, with charts, diagrams, and mathematical equations. The plague follows predictable patterns. It feeds on gravitational fields around planets. If we create quantum barriers at specific points, we can redirect it safely. Furthermore, Lisa continued, our fleet coordination algorithms can position ships to guide the plague's movement. We've already run successful simulations. The chamber fell silent as the aliens studied the human data. Jake watched their faces, hoping to see understanding. Instead, he saw the same dismissive expressions he had grown tired of over the years. Counselor, Vexthul floated higher. While we appreciate the human effort, this problem requires sophisticated solutions. The Crystalline Union has presented a more advanced approach. A tall, crystal-like being named Shardek stepped forward. Our plan involves temporal manipulation and dimensional shifting. We will move entire systems out of the plague's path using our superior technology. Jake felt his heart sink. The crystalline plan sounded impressive, but Lisa had already explained why it wouldn't work. Moving entire systems required enormous energy, and the plague would simply follow the temporal disturbance. Counselor, Jake said, with respect, our analysis shows that temporal manipulation will actually attract the plague. It feeds on energy disruptions. Zethkar hissed again. The humans always think they know better. They have been in space for barely 2 centuries. The crystallines have mastered time and space for millennia. Other aliens murmured agreement. Jake heard the familiar words. Primitive humans, young species, limited understanding. He had heard these phrases for 3 decades, even as humans, solved problem after problem for the galaxy. The vote was called. 47 counselors voted for the crystalline plan. Only 3 voted for the human solution. Jake wasn't surprised, but it still hurt. Captain Ryan Hayes, Jake's military advisor, leaned over. Sir, we could implement our plan anyway. Save whoever we can. Jake shook his head. The council has decided. We follow their lead. 3 weeks later, Jake received the emergency communication. The crystalline plan had failed catastrophically. Instead of moving the systems to safety, the temporal manipulation had torn holes in space itself. The plague had spread through these holes, consuming 3 more systems in a single day. Jake stared at the casualty reports. 15 billion lives lost because the council chose pride over practical solutions. Lisa sat across from him, tears in her eyes as she read the names of scientists who had died in the disaster. We tried to warn them, she said quietly. Yes, Jake replied. We did. That night, Jake made a decision that would change everything. He opened a secure communication channel to Earth and spoke directly with President Katie Walsh. "Madam President," he said, "I'm requesting permission to withdraw humanity from the Galactic Council." President Walsh appeared on the screen, her expression serious. "That's a big step, Commander. Are you certain?" Jake thought about 30 years of being dismissed, ignored, and treated like children. He thought about human innovations being stolen and claimed by other species. He thought about 15 billion dead aliens who could have been saved if the Council had listened to human advice just once. "Yes, ma'am. I'm certain. We've spent 150 years trying to help them, and they've spent 150 years telling us we're too stupid to matter. Maybe it's time they learned what the galaxy looks like without humans fixing their problems." The next morning, Jake stood once again in the council chamber. This time, he carried a formal document sealed with Earth's official stamp. "Honorable Councilors," Jake announced, his voice carrying across the chamber, "I present humanity's official withdrawal from the Galactic Council." The chamber erupted in shocked silence, then angry voices. Vexthul's energy form flashed bright. "Red, this is unacceptable. The humans cannot simply leave." Jake smiled for the first time in years. "Actually, we can. And we are. Effective immediately, all human personnel will be withdrawn from Council territories. All human-designed systems will be transferred to local control. All human trade agreements are terminated." He looked around the chamber one last time. For 150 years, humanity has served this council faithfully. We've been your mediators, your engineers, your problem solvers, and for 150 years you've treated us like servants whose opinions don't matter. Jake placed the withdrawal document on the council table. "Well, now you can solve your own problems. Good luck." As Jake walked toward the exit, Zethkar called out, "You cannot abandon your responsibilities to the galaxy." Jake stopped and turned back. "We're not abandoning our responsibilities. We're finally accepting them. Our responsibility is to humanity first. The rest of you will have to learn to take care of yourselves." The chamber doors closed behind him with a final echoing sound. President Katie Walsh stood in the Oval Office on Earth, watching the news feeds from across the galaxy. It had been 2 weeks since Commander Sullivan delivered humanity's withdrawal notice to the Galactic Council, and the reactions were exactly what she had expected. Some aliens were angry, some were confused, but most were starting to panic. General Marcus Price entered the office carrying a data pad filled with reports. The tall, gray-haired military leader had spent his career preparing for this day, even though he had hoped it would never come. "Madam President," he said, "our withdrawal is proceeding ahead of schedule. All human personnel have been evacuated from council stations. Our ships are returning to human space." Katie nodded. "Any problems?" "A few minor incidents. Some alien officials tried to prevent our people from leaving. They claim we're abandoning critical systems." Marcus smiled grimly. "They're not wrong about that." Dr. Alan Carter, head of Human Colonial Development, joined them. He looked tired but satisfied. "The real problems are just starting to show up. Station Alpha 7 lost life support yesterday. Beta Colony's power grid failed this morning. And the trade routes—" He shook his head. "Complete chaos." Katie had expected this. For 150 years, humans had quietly become the backbone of galactic civilization, not because they had planned it, but because they were good at solving problems and making things work better. When other species designed something, they made it complicated and impressive. When humans designed something, they made it simple and reliable. Over time, more and more systems had been built using human designs or maintained by human engineers. "What about the economic impact?" Katie asked. Alan pulled up a holographic display showing trade routes across the galaxy. Most of the lines were red, indicating disrupted or failed routes. 67% of all galactic trade routes were optimized using human logistics algorithms. Without our computers managing the flow, everything is backing up. General Price added, "It's not just trade. 43% of all council stations rely on human-designed life support systems. 38% of their communication networks run on human protocols." Katie studied the data. Humanity hadn't meant to become so important to galactic civilization. It had just happened naturally. Humans were good at making things work, and other species had been happy to let them handle the boring details while taking credit for the results. A communication alert sounded. Katie's assistant announced that High Counselor Vexthul was requesting an emergency meeting with Earth's leadership. "Put him through," Katie said. The alien's energy form appeared in the room as a shimmering hologram. Even through the translation system, his panic was obvious. "President Walsh, this withdrawal must stop immediately. Critical systems are failing across the galaxy." Katie kept her expression neutral. "I'm sorry to hear about your technical difficulties, Counselor. Perhaps you should have thought about that before dismissing our solutions to the Void Plague crisis." "That was a different matter entirely," Vexthul protested. "This affects billions of lives. Your people have a moral obligation to maintain the systems they built." "No," Katie replied firmly. "We had a moral obligation to warn you about the consequences of your decisions. We did that repeatedly over the past century and a half. You chose not to listen." Dr. Carter stepped forward. "Counselor, every system we built came with complete documentation and training programs. Your species chose not to learn how to maintain them. You preferred to keep using our services instead." Meanwhile, on the Council Station New Prosperity, Trade Minister Zolping was discovering just how much his aquatic species had come to depend on human systems. The tall, blue-scaled alien stood in his office, staring at screens full of error messages. His assistant, a young Deepsen named Flotal, swam nervously in her water suit. "Minister, the cargo management system has completely failed. Ships are stuck in the docking bays. No one knows how to reset the human computers." Zolping felt his gills fluttering with stress. "What about the backup systems?" "The backups were also designed by humans, sir, and the maintenance crew that knew how to fix them. They left with the other humans 3 days ago." Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. On mining worlds, extraction equipment sat silent because no one understood the human software that controlled it. On agricultural planets, food distribution networks had collapsed without human logistics coordinators. The Crystalline Union's homeworld faced a particularly embarrassing problem. Their most advanced city relied entirely on a human-designed power grid. When it failed, the crystal beings found themselves unable to maintain their energy forms properly. Their leaders began flickering like broken lights. Ambassador Zethkar paced in his chambers on the council station, his claws clicking against the floor. The proud reptilian had spent decades mocking human capabilities, but now his own staff couldn't operate the environmental controls in their quarters. His aide, a nervous young Saurian named Hiskar, approached carefully. "Ambassador, the temperature regulation system has failed. The human technicians took their access codes with them." "Then break the codes," Zethkar snapped. "We've tried, sir. The human encryption is very sophisticated. Our computer experts estimate it will take months to crack." Zethkar's temper flared. "Months? We can't survive in these conditions for months." What the aliens were discovering was that humans had quietly prevented dozens of crises from ever becoming visible. Human diplomats had mediated territorial disputes before they could escalate into wars. Human economists had prevented 12 different market crashes through careful intervention. Human engineers had been patching critical system failures for decades. 1 week later, the First War broke out. The Grex Empire and the Moth Confederacy had been arguing over mining rights in the Kepler sector for 50 years. Previously, human mediators had kept their conflict manageable. Without human intervention, the argument exploded into open warfare. 3 days after that, the Void Plague struck again. This time, it consumed an entire populated system in the core worlds. The Council's emergency response was chaotic and ineffective. Without human coordination, rescue ships arrived too late or went to the wrong locations entirely. High Counselor Vexthul called another emergency session. The Great Chamber was only half full, because many species were too busy dealing with crises in their own territories to attend council meetings. "We must address the human situation," Vexthul announced, his energy form dimmer than usual. "The galaxy is falling into chaos. Counselor Yithmon, a young plant-based being from the Verdani species, spoke up. Perhaps we should consider that the humans were trying to help us, and we were too proud to listen, Zethkar hissed angrily. The humans are punishing us because we wounded their fragile pride. They're holding the galaxy hostage. No, said Yithmon quietly. We're hostages to our own arrogance. The humans aren't attacking us. They're not sabotaging our systems. They're simply not fixing our problems anymore. And we're discovering that we don't actually know how to fix them ourselves. Back on Earth, President Walsh received daily reports about the growing chaos. Part of her felt sorry for the aliens who were suffering, but a larger part felt vindicated. For too long, humanity had been treated as the galaxy's unpaid janitors, cleaning up messes and maintaining systems while being denied any real voice in important decisions. General Price entered her office with the latest intelligence report. Madam President, we're receiving formal requests for assistance from 17 different species. They're offering various forms of payment and concessions. Katie reviewed the list. Most of the offers were insulting, treating human expertise as something that could be purchased cheaply. What about the council itself? Still radio silence from the official leadership, but we're getting back-channel communications from individual counselors. They're starting to realize that this isn't just a temporary tantrum. Dr. Carter looked up from his own reports. The economic modeling shows complete systemic collapse within 6 months if current trends continue. They need us more than we need them, Katie nodded. Then they'll have to figure out how to ask properly. 3 months had passed since humanity withdrew from the Galactic Council, and the galaxy was falling apart faster than anyone had imagined. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the human transport ship Liberty, watching the final evacuation of New Geneva Colony. Elena's job was to coordinate the safe return of all humans from alien territories. It should have been simple work, but some alien species had decided to make it complicated. They were trying to force humans to stay and maintain their systems. Ma'am, called Captain Amy Foster from the bridge, we're receiving another demand from the local authorities. They say we can't leave until we repair their communication array. Elena sighed. This was the 5th such demand today. Tell them that's not our problem anymore. Our people are coming home whether they like it or not. The New Geneva colony had been humanity's most successful settlement in alien space. For 80 years, humans had lived peacefully alongside the native Kalari species, sharing technology and culture. But now the Kalari were begging the humans not to leave, because their entire infrastructure depended on human maintenance. Dr. Nicole Barnes, a xenopsychologist who studied alien behavior, joined Elena at the observation window. She had been documenting the alien responses to human withdrawal, and her findings were disturbing. The panic is getting worse, Nicole reported. Some species are entering what I can only describe as psychological breakdown. They've become so dependent on human problem-solving that they've forgotten how to think for themselves. Elena nodded grimly. What about the aggressive species? That's where things get dangerous. Fleet Admiral Kettar of the Apex Predators is mobilizing a war fleet. Our intelligence suggests he plans to attack human colonies and force us back into service. The Apex Predators were one of the galaxy's most militaristic species. They looked like giant wolves walking upright, with sharp teeth and claws. For decades, they had been barely restrained by council diplomacy and human mediation. Now, with humans gone, their violent nature was showing clearly. Prime Minister Alex Thompson appeared on the communication screen from Mars. The red planet had become the center of human colonial government since the withdrawal began. Elena, we've confirmed Kettar's plans. He's gathering 500 warships to attack New Geneva Colony. Elena felt a chill. New Geneva only had minimal defenses since it had relied on council protection. What are our options? President Walsh has authorized full defensive measures, Alex replied. General Price is sending the Pacific Fleet to intercept. Dr. Barnes looked confused. The Pacific Fleet? I thought we only had exploration ships and small defense cruisers. Elena and Alex exchanged knowing looks. There were many things about human capabilities that the aliens had never learned. For 150 years, humanity had been very careful not to appear threatening to their alien neighbors. Meanwhile, on the council station, Trade Minister Zolping was dealing with complete economic collapse. His aquatic species had controlled galactic commerce for centuries, but their entire system depended on human-designed logistics networks. "The situation is catastrophic," his assistant Flotel reported. "Food shipments are backing up at major hubs. Manufacturing worlds can't get raw materials. The spiral trade route has completely shut down." Zolping's gills fluttered with desperation. "What about our own ships? Can't we deliver goods ourselves?" "We've tried, sir, but without the human navigation algorithms, our ships keep getting lost in hyperspace. 3 cargo vessels disappeared last week when their crews couldn't calculate proper jump coordinates. The same problems were affecting everyone. The Crystalline Union's temporal manipulation technology was useless for basics transportation. The plant-based Verdani were excellent at growing things but terrible at moving them between star systems. The energy beings like Vexthal could communicate instantly across the galaxy, but they couldn't carry physical cargo. Each species had developed 1 or 2 areas of expertise over millions of years. But humans were different. Humans were generalists who could adapt to any situation and find practical solutions to any problem. The galaxy had grown dependent on that human flexibility, without even realizing it. On the 4th month after withdrawal, the Void Plague struck again. This time it hit the Saurian homeworld, consuming 3 of their outer colonies before anyone could react. Without human coordination, the evacuation efforts were chaotic and deadly. Ambassador Zethkar watched helplessly as billions of his people died. The same reptilian who had mocked human intelligence now found himself desperately wishing for human help. But his pride prevented him from admitting his mistake. Fleet Admiral Ket Tar finally launched his attack on New Geneva Colony. His massive fleet of 500 warships jumped into the system, expecting to find helpless human civilians protected only by small patrol boats. Instead, they found something that changed everything. The human ships that met them didn't look like anything in the galactic databases. They were sleek, efficient, and obviously built with technology far beyond what humans had ever displayed publicly. Captain Amy Foster commanded the human response from her ship, the Defender. She had trained for this moment her entire career, though she had hoped it would never come. "Admiral Ket Tar," she broadcast on all frequencies, "you are entering human territorial space without permission. Turn around now and no one gets hurt." Ket Tar's snarling voice came back over the communication channel. "Pathetic humans, you will surrender immediately and return to your duties or we will destroy your entire colony." "I don't think so," Amy replied calmly. What happened next lasted exactly 72 hours and became known throughout the galaxy as the event that changed everything. The human ships deployed weapons that the aliens had never seen before, gravitational manipulation devices that could crush enemy vessels like tin cans, quantum mines that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, adaptive artificial intelligence systems that learned enemy tactics and countered them instantly. But most shocking of all, the humans didn't try to destroy the alien fleet. Instead, they disabled every single ship with surgical precision. 500 of the galaxy's most advanced warships were left floating powerlessly in space, their crews unharmed, but completely helpless. The entire battle was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species watched in amazement as humans demonstrated technology that made their own advances look primitive. The same humans they had dismissed as simple problem solvers had been hiding capabilities that surpassed anything in the known galaxy. Admiral Ket Tar found himself trapped in his flagship's bridge, all systems dead except life support and communications. "This is impossible," he snarled. "Humans are weak. You have no military technology." Captain Foster's image appeared on his screen, her expression patient but firm. "Admiral, we've never been weak. We've been careful. For 150 years we've deliberately limited ourselves to avoid frightening our neighbors. We wanted to be part of galactic civilization, not conquer it. But you forced our hand," Amy continued. "We tried being peaceful partners. We tried being helpful junior members. We tried being patient with your condescension and arrogance. None of that worked. So now you get to see what humans are really capable of." The Admiral's voice was barely a whisper. "What do you want?" "We want to be left alone," Amy replied. "We want to build our own civilization without having to clean up your messes or listen to your insults. We want you to learn how to solve your own problems." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "And we want the galaxy to understand that human restraint was a gift, not a weakness. A gift that you threw away." The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Ketatar and his entire fleet stranded in human space. Within hours, rescue ships from various alien species arrived to tow the disabled vessels home. But the damage to alien confidence was permanent. High Counselor Vex Thule called an emergency session of what remained of the Galactic Council. The chamber was nearly empty, with many species too busy dealing with crises to attend meetings. "And so our human situation has become critical," Vex Thule announced, his energy form flickering with stress. "They possess technology far beyond our understanding. They've been hiding their true capabilities for centuries." Counselor Yithmon, the young Verdani representative, spoke quietly. "Perhaps they weren't hiding their capabilities. Perhaps they were hiding them from us to protect us from our own fear and jealousy." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. For 150 years, humans had been powerful enough to conquer the galaxy. Instead, they had chosen to serve it, to help it, to improve it, and the galaxy had repaid that service with contempt. Now, with humans gone, everyone could see the truth. Without human guidance, galactic civilization was collapsing, and the humans had made it clear that they were no longer interested in saving it. 6 months after humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, Secretary of State Paul Davidson sat in his office on Luna Station, reading reports from across the galaxy. The news was uniformly bad for the aliens, and uniformly good for humanity. Human space had become a technological paradise. Without the need to hide their capabilities or limit their development to avoid frightening alien neighbors, humans had unleashed decades of suppressed innovation. Cities floated in the clouds of gas giants. Entire asteroids had been converted into massive manufacturing centers. Fusion power was so cheap it was practically free. Meanwhile, alien space was falling apart. Dr. Michelle Brooks, head of Human Technological Development, entered Paul's office carrying a secure data pad. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, and she had spent her career managing humanity's most classified projects. "Paul," she said, "the Crystalline Union just tried to break into our research facility on Titan. Their espionage team was captured trying to steal quantum manipulation technology." Paul wasn't surprised. This was the third such attempt this month. As alien civilizations crumbled, their leaders were becoming desperate. Some tried diplomacy, offering increasingly valuable concessions for human assistance. Others tried force, like Admiral Ketar's failed attack. Now they were trying theft. "What did we do with them?" Paul asked. "Sent them home with a polite note explaining that industrial espionage is not the way to rebuild diplomatic relationships," Michelle replied with a slight smile. Ambassador Chen Wei appeared on the communication screen from the neutral station, Deep Space Nine. She was humanity's last official diplomat, secretly maintaining contact with moderate alien leaders who were trying to find a peaceful solution to the crisis. "Paul," Chen said, "I've been meeting with Counselor Yithmon from the Verdani. She's leading a reform movement within what's left of the Council. They're finally ready to discuss real changes." Paul studied Chen's face. She was an excellent diplomat who had wanted to find a peaceful solution from the beginning, but even she admitted that the aliens needed to learn some hard lessons. "What kind of changes?" Paul asked. "Full recognition of human technological leadership, restructured voting rights in the Council, an end to the theft of human innovations." Chen paused. "And formal reparations for 150 years of exploitation." Those were significant concessions, but Paul wondered if they were too little, too late. In human space, many people were enjoying their new independence. They no longer had to worry about alien politics or clean up alien messes. Why go back to that life? Meanwhile, on the Saurian homeworld, Ambassador Zethkar was facing the worst crisis in his species' history. The Void Plague had consumed half their territory, and without human coordination, Their evacuation efforts had been catastrophically ineffective. His aide Hisakar brought him the daily casualty reports. "Sir, we've lost another 3 colonies. The plague is moving faster than our ships can evacuate civilians." Sethkar's claws scraped against his desk. The proud reptilian had spent decades mocking human intelligence, but now his people were dying. Because he had been too arrogant to listen to human warnings about the plague. "What about the crystalline solution?" he asked desperately. "Complete failure, sir. Their temporal manipulation just makes the plague stronger. We need the human quantum barrier technology, but they're not sharing it with anyone." Across the galaxy, other species were facing similar disasters. The Grex Empire and Moth Confederacy were locked in a brutal war that had already consumed dozens of star systems. The aquatic deepsen species had lost control of galactic trade routes, leading to mass starvation on agricultural worlds. The plant-based Verdani were thriving in their own territory but couldn't help anyone else because they had never developed space travel technology. War Chief Grocknell of the militant Krex species was trying to organize a coalition against humanity. The large, aggressive alien believed that the galaxy's problems could be solved through military action. "The humans are weak," he declared at a secret meeting of 6 militaristic species. "They hide behind defensive technology because they cannot fight a real war. If we attack together, they will surrender and return to their proper place." Admiral Ketatar, still humiliated by his defeat at New Geneva Colony, supported the war chief's plan. "I underestimated their defenses, but they cannot stop a coordinated attack by multiple fleets simultaneously." The coalition against human tyranny, as they called themselves, began gathering ships from across the galaxy. Their plan was to attack 10 different human colonies at once, overwhelming human defenses through sheer numbers. They had no idea what they were really facing. Dr. Michelle Brooks received intelligence about the coalition's plans from human monitoring stations. She brought the information to an emergency meeting of Earth's leadership. "They're planning to attack in 2 weeks," she reported to President Walsh, General Price, and Secretary Davidson. 6 species, over 2,000 ships, simultaneous strikes on our outer colonies. President Walsh studied the tactical displays. "Can we handle that many enemies?" General Price smiled grimly. "Madam President, it's time to show them what the human deep space fleet really looks like." For 150 years, humanity had maintained the fiction that they were a peaceful species with limited military capabilities. In reality, they had been building the most advanced defensive network in galactic history. Not because they wanted to conquer anyone, but because they understood that the galaxy was a dangerous place. Hidden shipyards throughout human space had been producing vessels that incorporated technology far beyond anything the aliens possessed. Stealth ships that were invisible to all known sensors. Carrier vessels that could deploy thousands of automated fighters. Battleships protected by shields that could absorb the energy of entire stars. But more importantly, humans had developed something the aliens had never understood: true artificial intelligence. Not the simple computer programs that other species used, but actual electronic minds that could think, learn, and adapt in real time. The AI systems had been analyzing alien military tactics for decades, developing countermeasures for every possible attack strategy. They knew the specifications of every alien ship, the capabilities of every alien weapon, and the weaknesses of every alien defense. When the coalition against human tyranny finally launched their coordinated attack, they discovered that humans had been prepared for exactly this scenario. The alien fleets jumped into human space expecting to find lightly defended colonies. Instead, they found themselves trapped in carefully prepared killing fields. Human ships appeared from nowhere, striking with weapons the aliens had never seen before. The battle was over in hours. 2,000 of the galaxy's most advanced warships were either destroyed or disabled. The few survivors limped home with stories of impossible human technology and precision that seemed almost supernatural. War Chief Grocknell found his flagship's bridge filled with smoke and sparks. Half his crew was dead, and his ship was drifting powerlessly through space. "How?" he whispered to himself. How did they know exactly where we would be? The answer was that humans had been monitoring alien communications for decades. They had infiltrated alien computer networks, placed sensors throughout alien space, and built detailed models of every alien military organization. While the aliens had been dismissing humans as primitive problem solvers, humans had been quietly preparing for every possible threat. Captain Amy Foster, now promoted to Admiral, appeared on Grocknull's communication screen. War Chief, your coalition has been defeated. Your ships are disabled, your crews are captured, and your military reputation is destroyed. This is impossible, Grocknull snarled. You cannot defeat the entire galaxy. Amy's expression was patient but firm. We're not fighting the entire galaxy. We're fighting the small portion of the galaxy that refuses to learn from its mistakes. Most alien species are trying to find peaceful solutions to their problems. You chose violence instead. She paused, studying the defeated alien. But here's what you still don't understand. We didn't defeat you because we're better fighters. We defeated you because we're better thinkers. While you were planning this attack, we were 3 steps ahead of you. The transmission ended, leaving Grocknull to contemplate his failure. Back on Earth, President Walsh received reports about the Coalition's defeat. The victory was complete, but it came with a cost. Now the entire galaxy knew that humans possessed overwhelming military superiority. This changes everything, Secretary Davidson observed. They can't pretend we're equals anymore. They know we're their superiors in every way that matters. Dr. Brooks nodded. The question is, what do we do with that knowledge? Do we use our advantage to build a better galaxy? Or do we just protect ourselves and let everyone else figure out their own problems? President Walsh stared out at the stars, thinking about the choice that would define humanity's future relationship with the galaxy. They had proven their point. They had shown the aliens the consequences of arrogance and dismissal. But what came next? Meanwhile, in what remained of the Galactic Council, Councillor Yithmon was preparing a formal proposal for humanity's return to galactic civilization. But this time, the terms would be very different. The age of human subservience was over. The QE. 1 year after humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, Director Sam Johnson stood on the observation platform of New Earth Station, watching construction robots build the largest space habitat ever conceived. The massive ring-shaped structure would house 50 million people and serve as the new capital of human space. Sam had been chosen to lead the Human Renaissance Project, humanity's plan to build a completely new kind of civilization. Without the need to compromise with alien politics or hide their capabilities, humans were finally free to reach their full potential. The results had been remarkable. Human science had advanced more in the past year than in the previous century. Human colonies were spreading to previously impossible locations, the cores of gas giants, the surfaces of neutron stars, even pocket dimensions created through quantum manipulation. But the most important change was philosophical. For the first time in 150 years, humans were thinking about themselves first instead of constantly worrying about alien opinions and alien problems. Captain Amy Foster, now commanding the newly revealed human deep space fleet, joined Sam at the observation window. Her ships had grown from a few dozen hidden vessels to over 10,000 advanced warships, all built in the past year using previously classified technology. Sam, Amy said, we're receiving another formal request from the reformed Galactic Council. They want to negotiate humanity's return to galactic politics. Sam studied the communication. It was the 15th such request in the past 6 months, each more desperate than the last. The alien situation had gone from bad to catastrophic. The void plague was now consuming entire sectors, and without human quantum barrier technology, nothing could stop it. The economic collapse was complete, with most alien species reduced to subsistence-level survival. Wars were breaking out everywhere as desperate governments fought over dwindling resources. Dr. Kevin Wright, architect of the post-withdrawal human society, appeared on the communication screen from Mars University. The elderly scientist had spent his career studying what humans could accomplish without alien interference, and his predictions were finally being tested. The modeling is clear, Kevin reported. If current trends continue, galactic civilization will collapse completely within 2 years. Most alien species will survive, but they'll be reduced to pre-space technology levels. Sam nodded. And if we intervene? We can save them all. The quantum barrier technology can stop the void plague completely. Our economic algorithms can restore interstellar trade. Our diplomatic protocols can end the wars. Kevin paused, but it would mean taking responsibility for the entire galaxy. That was the central question facing humanity. They had proven their point decisively. The aliens now understood that humans were not primitive servants but advanced beings who had been restraining themselves for the sake of galactic peace. The question was whether humans wanted to use their advantages to help or simply to protect themselves. On the Reformed Council station, young Councillor Yithmon was preparing for the most important speech of her career. The plant-based Verdani had become the leader of the reform movement after the old guard had been discredited by the ongoing disasters. The council chamber was nearly empty. Many species could no longer afford to send representatives to meetings. Others had withdrawn into isolation, trying to protect what remained of their civilizations. Only 12 of the original 57 council species were still participating in galactic politics. Fellow beings, Yithmon began, her leaves rustling with emotion. We face the end of everything we have built over millions of years. Our pride and arrogance have brought us to the edge of extinction. She activated a holographic display showing the current state of the galaxy. Red zones indicated areas consumed by the void plague. Yellow zones showed regions in active warfare. Green zones representing stable areas were mostly empty except for human space. We treated the humans as servants when they were actually our guardians. We mocked their intelligence when they were actually protecting us from our own foolishness. We dismissed their contributions when they were actually the foundation of everything we accomplished. Former High Councillor Vexthul, now stripped of power and position, flickered weakly in his corner of the chamber. The once proud energy being had been broken by the collapse of everything he had believed about galactic hierarchy and alien superiority. These humans will never return, he whispered. We have destroyed any possibility of reconciliation through our actions. Yithmon turned toward him. Perhaps, but we must try. Not because we deserve their help, but because billions of innocent beings across the galaxy deserve a chance to survive our leader's mistakes. She had prepared a formal proposal for humanity's return to galactic politics, but the terms were radically different from the old arrangements. This time, humans would be recognized as the senior species with ultimate authority over galactic policy. Other species would serve in advisory roles, contributing their expertise while acknowledging human leadership. The proposal also included massive reparations for 150 years of stolen innovations and unpaid services. Every species would contribute resources to compensate humanity for their decades of unrecognized contributions to galactic civilization. Most importantly, the proposal included mandatory cultural exchange programs designed to help alien species understand and appreciate human values like adaptability, cooperation, and practical problem-solving. Meanwhile, in human space, the debate was intense. Many humans were reluctant to return to galactic politics after being treated so badly for so long. They were enjoying their independence and their rapid technological advancement. Secretary of State Paul Davidson led the isolationist faction. We tried to help them for 150 years, he argued at a meeting of Earth's leadership. They repaid our service with contempt and theft. Why should we give them another chance to disappoint us? But Ambassador Chen Wei, who had maintained secret contacts with moderate aliens throughout the crisis, argued for engagement. Because that's who we are, she said simply. We're the species that solves problems and helps others. If we abandon that nature, we abandon what makes us human. President Walsh called for a global referendum on humanity's future relationship with the galaxy. The debate lasted for months with passionate arguments on both sides. The deciding factor came when the void plague reached critical mass. It had consumed so much matter and energy that it was beginning to affect the fundamental structure of space-time itself. If it continued growing, it would eventually threaten human space as well. Dr. Michelle Brooks presented her analysis to the global population. We can stop the plague, but only if we act soon. The quantum barriers need to be positioned while there's still enough stable space-time to anchor them. If we wait too long, even our technology won't be able to fix the damage. The referendum passed by a narrow margin. Humanity would return to galactic politics, but only on their own terms. The negotiations took place on New Earth Station, with Counselor Yithmon leading a delegation of desperate alien representatives. Commander Jake Sullivan, now promoted to Galactic Coordinator, represented humanity. The humans presented their conditions clearly and non-negotiably: full recognition of human technological and moral superiority. Restructured galactic government, with humans holding veto power over all major decisions. Massive reparations paid over the next century. Mandatory education programs to help aliens understand human values and methods. Most importantly, humans would have the authority to intervene in any situation that threatened galactic stability, regardless of local sovereignty claims. These terms are harsh, Yithmon admitted. Jake's expression was firm but not unkind. They're fair. For 150 years we served the galaxy faithfully and were treated as inferiors. Now you know the truth about our capabilities. These terms reflect that new reality. Yithmon looked around at her fellow delegates. Most were nodding in agreement, despite the humiliation of admitting their species' inferiority. They had no choice. Without human help, they would all be extinct within 2 years. We accept, she said quietly. The implementation of the new galactic order began immediately. Human ships deployed quantum barriers throughout the galaxy, stopping the void, plague's advance and beginning the slow process of healing the damage it had caused. Human economists took control of interstellar trade, rapidly restoring prosperity to worlds that had been starving. Human diplomats ended the wars that had been tearing the galaxy apart, but most importantly, humans began teaching other species how to think differently. Instead of relying on ancient traditions and species-specific expertise, aliens were encouraged to develop human-style adaptability and problem-solving skills. The results were remarkable. Within 6 months, alien species that had been stagnant for millennia were making new discoveries and developing innovative solutions to old problems. The galaxy began to thrive in ways it never had before. 1 year after the new order began, Jake Sullivan stood once again in the Great Council chamber. But now the chamber was full, with representatives from 63 species, including 12 that had never participated in galactic politics before. The difference was obvious. Instead of the old pattern of species-specific expertise and rigid thinking, the NE